passage.
Il est passé. Super, l'artiste. Super, encore un but sensationnel. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! De er i semifinale igjen!
It's tip-off time in the IHF World Championship, and we have our second preview at a time where you've already probably watched Denmark absolutely destroy Algeria. But we will talk about them and the other Nordic teams and their chances for the whole championship. It's Alex Kulash here, and I'm joined by Chris O'Reilly. How are you doing, Chris?
Good, Alex. Ready to get going. My first game will be Italy versus Tunisia, the very first game of the championship at 5:30 on Tuesday. And just in time, the IHF have released where you can watch all the games. It'll be on YouTube for in countries with no TV rights deals. And in Scandinavia, it's going to be on Viaplay, which is very fitting because we have Albin Falk Hansson, one of the commentators from Viaplay, who'll be joining us shortly to speak about all those Scandinavian sides. We said this is our second preview. We did have a bonus preview during the weekend as well, which was only for subscribers on Patreon, in which we also went into detail on the Hold It competition, the fantasy handball competition, which you could also be a part of if you join us on Patreon. Still time to do that on patreon.com/handball hour. You would have also enjoyed already by now a really nice interview we had with Erwin Feuchtmann, which we'll squeeze into the end of this episode for all of you to enjoy as well. The second top scorer of the championship 2 years ago from Chile.
Just to show the value that our Patreon is, which you can join just for €3 a month, the cost of a coffee, or just over the cost of that I paid over the weekend to EHF TV to watch Great Britain play Cyprus.
Oh, wow.
$2.49 for an individual game pass to watch Great Britain play Cyprus in the first round of qualifying for the 2028 EHF Euros. And if I can do that, you can pay €3 to get all the bonus content and fun we have on Patreon.
Wow. Was it worth it?
Honestly, it was a great game.
Yeah. Great Britain won the group, huh? They won the group and into the next round of European qualifiers. Yeah, there's still stuff happening in the handball world besides the World Championship. We're going to very much focus on the World Championship, but we should mention the shocking news that happened today, Alex. Vipers Kristiansand, they're gone, bankrupt. We covered that in detail with Anja Borg a couple of months ago, which you can go back and listen to, which went through the whole issue of their survival. And after all the mess in which Yamina Roberts today described as feeling like a circus, it looked like they had been through the worst of it. But then all of a sudden, today, they're gone. So out of the Champions League, out of existence. Which is horrible news for them, three-time Champions League winners, but something we'll have to reflect on another time because we have big business to attend to in the World Championship.
Agreed. World Championships on, as we said, Nordic teams, the focus. I'm glad that we know where we can watch the games now, and hopefully the excitement starts to build. I'm excited. There's a bit of a buzz around the handball community, but I think it's really when it gets going, the highlights start coming out, and you'll be able to catch those highlights on our social media, on Twitter and on Instagram, where we have exclusive permission to post videos, and we'll be posting more than the IHF. So follow us there.
Laying down the gauntlet there, Alex Kulash. All right, I think we can head into our interview with Albin. Let's chat a little bit about the Nordic teams at this World Championship. Joining us from Stockholm is Albin Falk Hansson, who's a commentator and producer for Viaplay in Sweden will be covering the championship, and one of our very first Patreon subscribers as well.
I was?
You were, yes. You're right in the top of the list ever since the early days. So
Nice.
thank you for that. But we're here to bring you, we've brought you on for the handball knowledge here this evening. And we're going to talk about the Scandinavian or the Nordic teams with you. You looking forward to the tournament starting tomorrow as we record?
Yeah.
Exactly. Sweden's going to wait a while. It's one of the teams that has to sit out the first 2 days. In Holdet, the first round, yeah.
Yes.
But yes, looking really much forward to it. Even though, as we're probably gonna get into, the Swedes are tricky to find out where we have them. But I'm starting with Denmark, Algeria tomorrow for my own sake. So
let's dive into the Swedes then. And as I said, it's hard to know exactly where they're at the moment. There's been a lot of change, at least in terms of the coaching side since the Olympics, with Glenn Solberg out. Hard to say what kind of circumstances that happened, but Mikael Appelgren has come in, and also the Pick Saget coach. First of all, what do you think he is bringing to this team, bringing to the table compared to Solberg?
Tactics. straight out tactics. Yeah, he's a guy well known in Sweden and of course the Nordics from his time in Elverum too. Influences from Spain, where he played as a player. So a bit of Spanish defense, tricky, and he's been winning everywhere he's been. In Sävehof, playing with the small players, almost Magdeburg style. Really, really putting his mark on the teams he's coached in his quite long coaching career at this level, even though he's quite young. But Solberg was all like the old Bengham Boys style with the team first. And everything's like sounded really, really good, looked really, really good, as you all know, with the silvers and the golds and the bronze medals and the Euros here. But then things started to evolve, get nasty from the inside. It almost seems.
But that's a classic Swedish national team story, right? A bit of tension between the coaches and the players. We've seen many times a few players getting kicked off the team, coaches being angry, and obviously Andreas Nielsen has come back into the squad, showing that we're past the Glenn Solberg era. But can you actually give a little bit more insight into some of the murmurings or what team issues led to Glenn Solberg's departure? And I suppose, was it just the time? Every team only has a number of years where they can kind of compete at the top. I suppose at international level that's a little bit different, but seems to be the case for Sweden at least.
Yeah, very much so. At least it almost seems the first things we were noticing, like when we were broadcasting the team, was that he didn't want to let anyone else stand in the spotlight when it came to interviews. We tried to interview like Martin Bokvist. He left too. He was with an argument with Glenn Solberg because he wanted to pick his own assistant manager, and that was all fine. But the thing that was said behind the closed doors that were coming out wasn't too good for Glenn Solberg, if you can understand what I'm saying. And then the same thing happened to Mikael Appelgren, who was the assistant coach, allegedly. So all the players have really stood by Glenn Solberg, and Glenn Solberg has, they all have good things to say about him. But when it came to other leaders in the squad having their say, it was apparently hard for Glenn Solberg to have other people, come through with their ideas.
Everyone apart from Gottfriedsen, right? Because that was always a good relationship. But maybe, as you said, Mikael Appelgren was the assistant coach before, and I think that helps with transition. We've seen on Szeged that he can actually take a squad and turn things around. Even though, as he said, he's a tactics guy, I think he knows how to jump into a team and make them tick. Have you seen that so far with the Mikkel Appelgren's time with Sweden so far?
It takes some time, we think. He says it too, that like the first few months with a new team, it always gets worse because it takes some time for the players to tick. Or when he came in, the players said it was not that much new, but now after 4 games, 2 losses, 1 draw against Iceland, and 1 really important win against Iceland here in the last game before the World Cup. Maybe things are starting to click. We in Sweden really remember the France game. It was a horror show in Orléans, the first game with him at helm, because it didn't really click there. But it's small details. The small details. It's gonna work.
And they have time to a little bit of time to get into it in this tournament as well, as is the format of this World Championship. But looking at the squad a little bit with you, no Felix Klar. He is back in training with Magdeburg
today.
I've seen, which is good news for him. But sadly, come just probably a month too late to be considered for this championship for Sweden, which leaves them basically in the hands of Jim Gottfriedson as a playmaker for this team. But besides that, what do you think of the squad that has been chosen to take on this World Championship?
With all the injuries, as you said, Felix Klar, and also now defense is the most alarming, I think. Both Max Dari and Oskar Bergendahl in the central defense is really... It's going to be hard to find the substitutes. Now Olof Schäfert has come in. Maybe he's going to be the one starting in the central defense next to Jonathan Karlsbogård, who can switch sides, and that's the most interesting thing, I would say. But otherwise, the players that should be in there are in there. Of course, you can say Niklas Ekberg coming in instead of Daniel Pedersen. But Sebastian Karlsson has done really, really good. So it's his place to lose now as the first right winger. I think it's a good squad. It's quite a lot of players that hasn't played big roles in big teams, as Sweden has gotten used to the last tournaments. Jim Gottfriedson, he hasn't played much with Nikola Krikau, more with Eggert and Vranjes. But is it good enough? We don't know.
Solid, right? But it's it's solid, but it feels like there's a bit of that X factor missing, and
exactly
that is. I know with you, Alex, you are also always looking for that with this Swedish team. It's a bunch of dependable, reliable men, but will that beat Denmark in a quarterfinal?
Yeah, and I think you make a good point about the defense and the fact that Karlsbogård is going to have to play a lot for his defensive ability, and not having a line player beside him, but a left back in Schäfert will mean that you have 2 left backs as your center block defensively. And if you're talking about X Factor, exciting players, guess who that is? That is a left back, Erik Johansson. The third left back is the other guy there. So for Mikkel Appelgren, he's going to have to figure out that puzzle somehow. Ultimately, what that means is probably less minutes for potentially your most exciting offensive player, Erik Johansson, because of the defensive structure. And it's going to be a challenge, especially with Felix Klar gone. And I suppose a question for you is related to Jim Gottfriedson. He has not had a good season. He's had a pretty rough time in Flensburg, which we've covered quite extensively. He's moving to a new club. Feels like he's not fully engaged. And it seems like he's going to have to be at the top of his game for Sweden to stand any chance of a medal. And will he be, is the question. What are your feelings from watching him so far and seeing him engaging?
The thing with Jim is that he speaks his mind. we've been I've been down to Flensburg this year and meeting with Jim together with Claes Helgen. We're doing a piece on the Bundesliga that is gonna air in the Swedish Viaplay studio. But he speaks his mind. He and Nikola Krika didn't get along, and he told Nikola Krika that, and maybe that was one factor that he played less. Maybe he could have gotten 5 minutes more each half, but Jim is Jim. And the thing I want to get to is Jim is Jim, and the thing he loves the most is playing for Sweden. And I think, and he wants the spotlight and thrives under it. So I know for the long run, maybe it's bad for him not to have played. He's been really good in the tournaments when he has had a big role in Flensburg, coming into it and playing a big role for Sweden. That's not the fact now. We all know it. But maybe he can find the fire within. And playing for Mikael Appelgren, who has picked him to pick Szeged too. So they have a really good relationship. And Mikael Appelgren has a really good relationship with Jonathan Edvardsson, who's the second guy behind him. Because he was the one developing Jonathan Edvardsson into a good center back in Sweden. So I think they got it covered, but it's hard with every position in Sweden except for Palicka maybe.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like at the age of 32, he's not old by any means, Jim Gottfriedson, but it feels like he is older than he is.
Yeah. I think there's players. There's like handball old. If you've played 12 seasons in the Bundesliga, you are handball old. And then there is, younger Kirill Lazarov who can play until 41 by staying away.
But maybe that's good then in that sense that he hasn't played an awful lot at this stage of the season, that he can come in hopefully fresh. And at least from what I saw in the second test match against Iceland, he looked pretty good. He was springy. He was very direct in his play. At times against an Icelandic defense, which is not terrible by any means. So, yeah,
he just needs to click with Erik Johansson too. We know we can play with the Karlsbogård. We know we can play with Albin Lagergren and Lucas Sandell, but can Erik Johansson and Jim Gottfriedson click more than in 6 versus 5? I don't know about that, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating question for Sweden actually, because they're a group of solid players, and the two wild cards, the two players that can bring him to the top, are those two you mentioned, Erik Johansson and Jim Gottfriedson, who haven't had good seasons, but they're capable of so much. So I think it's a difficult one to pick. Personally, I don't have too much faith in Sweden, but I tend to do that in general. So that's not it's not a full mark on the team, but it's kind of exciting to see that they can, come to the end of the main round and something special start happening, and that's something important to watch out for. But I suppose, let's say, moving on from that Sweden and Iceland game, you would have watched both teams go at each other for 2 games. Any thoughts on Iceland out of that? I think Iceland this year don't have the same hype as we've seen before. Also, Aron Palmerson seems to be out for a couple of games. Likely he'll come back in the second half of the tournament. But yeah, Omar Inge Magnusson out, kind of big star. Gilsey Christiansen still hasn't been the same since his injury. From what you saw, any insights from those 2 games on the Icelandic team?
I would say it's maybe as like you think of Sweden, no real X factor, or like a solid group of backcourt players with Viggo Kristiansson and Janos Dadis Marason and of course Elver and Jonsson, really good. The first game, in the first half, they shot Palicka out of the goal. They had a Palmarsson game where they just go at it, and everything went into goal. I think Iceland is a good one, but there are so many solid teams, as everyone has said. In Sweden, there's been 3 podcasts with a preview out today. Everyone timed it today, and everyone has said the same thing. There's like, as you also have been into, and Mariano Handball too, the teams behind Denmark and France, you can't pick one. And I think Iceland is one of them. They have a quite tricky road to the quarterfinals too. But I like Iceland. I like their wing players. They are always really, really good. But the defense is the tricky one. They can be really good, as they were against France in 2022, where they had that monster game. They can be like Swiss cheese with all the holes in it too. So you never know. And the same thing with the goalkeepers. I've never seen them have a really solid tournament altogether. They need to have that.
They both have the capability in goal to do that, and we saw that second half and the second game against Sweden as well, like that they have the potential to really step it up. I mean, on Omar Ingi Magnusson, is his absence all that bad? I'm kind of not so worried about that when looking at Viggo Christiansen and Teitur Arnason. It's like they have players in other positions in the backcourt to kind of make the difference. If you have 2 really solid Bundesliga players in there who might actually pass to the wings, who are so good in the right wing, is it so bad? Because at times I felt when Iceland have really been stuck, it's often all I can picture is Omar Ingi Magnusson like trying to shimmy his way around defenders and getting tackled and getting a free throw over and over and over and over again. So yeah, I'm not so concerned at that, and they have a couple of players in there who might be on the second line, but who could come up with something special, not like in every single game, but every now and then in Haukar Thrastarsson and the big man Thorstein Leo Gunnarsson as well.
Yeah, that was going to be my question actually. Just out of those games, did they get much time on the court? Are they relied on? Because Thrastarsson has been very good in the Champions League for Dinamo Bucharest. I've really liked watching him. I've seen very little of Leo Gunnarsson, just seeing that he's a giant man who can shoot from far. But are they getting much time?
No, they are not getting that much time. But when they're in, they shoot.
Yeah, that's for sure. I saw a lot of shots from Gunnarsson.
Yeah,
not all of them great. I think Fabian Norstein kind of had him well read, but he did come up with a couple of goals, right? But
I did in the second half of the second game there. But I would say the same thing you said with Magnusson. I would say the same thing about Palmarsson and maybe even Christiansson. The 3 maybe biggest stars in the backcourt. Maybe they shouldn't be the starters. With Palmarsson, if he comes back, he takes so much space when he plays. And is he the guy he was? I don't think so. But an X factor for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the player that, let's say, can actually make a difference in this championship compared to others is Elver Jonsson, who has developed into a really, really quality player. And it was Roberto Perondo spoke about this in an interview he did with Handball World, which was quite interesting, of how he really, they grew together. He brought Elver Jonsson, who was just a completely kind of solid defensive player and a really quality defensive player, and has seen the evolving kind of offensive play of Elver Jonsson to a really amazing level. Now he's got a move away from Melsungen, which Perondo wasn't too sad about. He understands that that's the handball world, but I think he's the only difference I see from kind of previous iterations of Iceland, and it's just a test. Again, one of those in the same vein as the Sweden question. I think he might not be the best player, but he's the one that can impact the team the most throughout the tournament.
Yeah, I think so too. They're probably going to fill his space in Melsungen with Olof Kjell-Schäfert, I've heard. Okay. So maybe he can grow even better in attack as well under Perondo.
A nice project for Perondo to get his hands on then. You said in our first preview podcast, Alex, that you're very excited about Norway. How are you feeling about them now on the eve of the championship?
Their loss to Spain.
Good to get it out of the way now, right?
That's true. It's good that they got that one out of the way. Loss to Spain maybe dampened it a little bit because of just the mental side. And again, I didn't watch that game, but that's the type of game they're flowing, they're looking good, and it just felt like that was a tournament that could put them into good spirits going into the championship. Again, it's a warm-up game. Let's not read into everything with Norway, but I do think they have. Again, they're just solid. They're experienced. They're not overly reliant on Sagosen, which is a plus to me. I think Tobias Grøndal has grown more and more into the team, and the main reason why I'm excited, and this is, we all know what this is, because Magnus Ruud is playing. And Norway, any team that Magnus Ruud actually plays for and isn't injured is a very, very good team. And Magnus Ruud is doing really well for Szeged, and he's in the squad for Norway. So I think they're complete, at least.
I thought you were going to say Andre Christiansen.
I was thinking the same, because that's what I have in mind. Finally, they have two goalkeepers to rely on, right?
Yeah. Finally.
Yeah,
that's true, and that's another kind of bonus on top of things, that they have two goalkeepers. That's an evolving nature of the squad. The squad doesn't evolve too much, but they do have Magnus Ruud at right back. Changes the way they play as a team, and I think someone like Simon Lise is also just a really good addition to relieve Sagosen of his need to kind of dominate. So it all just looks quite good for Norway for me. What about you, Albin?
I'm terrified going into Oslo with Spain too. We don't know where we have Spain with the young guns, but Norway at home, as you said, not fully relying on Sagosen. Sagosen can step up and add the extra. And I think he's all right with it too, for once.
Yeah.
I think Norway looks really, really sharp, and they have the Jonas Ville has come into the team. He's really, really likable. Has grown the team together. I think he's a really, really important piece here. This one. They've had some tournaments where it hasn't been really, really good, but they kept relying on him and Martin Bokvist next to him with a focus on defense. And as with Appelgren, Jonas Ville has done some great things in Sweden, in the Swedish league too. And everything he touches seems to be good too. Maybe not Mushti. It was all right, but... Norway looks strong. Norway looks solid, and with as you said, Chris, with the two goalkeepers, they can be dangerous. Let's see how the defense holds up.
It's really it's only a year ago that they were, crashing out of the Euro though in the main round, and it looked like it was kind of the end of an era, and Jonas Ville was already had his head was on the chopping block, and they were talking about who was going to be the next coach. And then they got that last win against Sweden in a game that didn't matter for them, but they beat Sweden and kind of in the last game of the main round in Hamburg, and that kind of gave everyone a bit of faith again in this team. And finally looking at this squad, it looks like everyone in the squad could contribute to the team as well, which is something that I don't think I've ever seen in a Norway team since they made the breakthrough. It was always 8, 9, 10 players that they're going to play the entire game, and the rest are kind of riding the bench. But here, it's a nicely balanced team, and we remember how good they were playing at home in the group phase in 2020 of the Euro. Now they have the potential to go all the way at home, which is quite exciting for them.
Only thing I'm annoyed at, and it's a classic Norway move, is that they didn't bring in Patrick Helland Andersen, the really talented right back, who's been really leading Elverum and led their under-21s team. And really, I think there was an opportunity to bring him in with Rankin injured. They stuck with Tunninson.
Like, what
Kent
is
Robin Tennyson.
what is he still doing at the top level handball? I don't know what's going on. He must have some sort of dirt on every coach and agent in handball or something. It's
Yeah.
Good agents.
yeah.
Well, that's a little bit missed, but it's a really tough draw for Norway and Sweden. We have groups E and F, which have Norway play Portugal, Brazil, and United States. In Group F, Sweden, Spain, Japan, and Chile are participating. So there's going to be, those top four sides, which honestly, there's very little to split between Spain, Portugal, Norway, and Sweden. And even like the likes of Brazil, Japan, and Chile are probably some of the better non-European teams, which can be a banana skin. Any of those can win a game or two against the others. So it's really hard to predict how that will flesh out.
On top of that is the quarterfinal,
Exactly.
in which Germany
You need to
and
win.
Denmark are awaiting.
You need to win. Yeah.
This half of the draw is just completely nuts. It's really wild, yeah. And you're saying there, Albin, you need to win the group to what? Get Germany, the Olympic silver medalist, as your reward? I mean, what kind of award is that?
You mean the team Sweden won against in the bronze game in Germany?
Yeah, well, there you go.
Let's forget the Olympics.
That's a good way to look at it. That's a good way to look at it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but Denmark is Denmark. So when you put it that way, it's not looking good. Yeah.
But definitely an exciting part, and we haven't really talked about Portugal, so let's touch on them very quickly. They're not a Nordic team, but I'm quite excited about Portugal. I have quite high hopes, and then I realized that they're in this gauntlet of a draw, so my hopes have been diminished a little bit. But do you think they actually do have a chance against these three established powerhouses in Spain, Sweden, Norway? Do you think Portugal actually fall into the category to challenge those?
Challenge in games, absolutely. They can steal points from anyone, but I don't think they will be in the top two. I think they are slightly below the other guys or the other teams. But as you say, I think Brazil and Japan can steal points from teams in this group. So maybe you can go through with losing against two of the top fours. So, and I don't think Portugal is going to win 3 games against the other guys. But I think they absolutely can steal points with their unorthodox style of play and the players that comes with in form.
I think they like playing against Scandinavian teams as well. And Spain will provide nothing unusual for them. I think there's no fear there for this team. It's something we're going to have to look at again in more detail as we get into the main round.
Yeah, with the sporting season that they haven't had in Champions League, maybe they have less respect for the tough opponents right now too.
I bet.
And it's nice for this championship because we talk about the World Championship opening rounds as a bit of a joke, and maybe they are sometimes. But both of those groups have the first game of the tournament, which is Norway versus Portugal in that group, is. Oh no, sorry. They play last in the group. Never mind. Yeah, they're playing Brazil, but still, that first game against Brazil, that might have point implications on the quarterfinal. And it's the same for the other group. There's every single one of those games may matter, except for United States, who are going to have a lot of fun.
They'll be there as well. Speaking of
with the
jokes,
Swedish coach,
with Robert Hidian, of course. Denmark. Speaking of joke groups, Italy, Algeria, Tunisia. All I'll say is that on TV2 Denmark, Matthias Gidsel reported that he feels that he is in the form of his life, which is saying something.
Now
okay. He feels like he's in the form of his life, which is scary.
He did score 12 goals in 40 minutes in their last warm-up game, and it's a really funny joke now in Danish media, the fact that Nikolaj Jakobsen will never let Gidsel break his international single goals record of 15. So the 12 goals scored, 20 minutes left, Nikolaj Jakobsen took him off the court, didn't let him beat it. And it wasn't the first time this has happened, but he's just Matthias Gidsel.
You've seen him a lot in Champions League and Bundesliga action so far this season, Albin. What is there to say about Matthias Gidsel?
10 for 10 against Magdeburg in the first half.
It is the first tournament for this team without Hansson and Landin, who've both retired from international handball. It doesn't seem to have weakened it too much. Do you see any weaknesses in this team? Like as a Swede who's looking for these kind of things, where do you see this potentially going wrong for Denmark?
That's a good question. Maybe the right wing, but it's not bad. It's not bad because Matthias Gidsel is there. He can take the wide shots with no angle on himself and still score 90%. So no, there are no weak spots in this. Maybe. No, you can't say central defense with Magnus Saugstrup there. But if the guys come up and shoot over them and they starting to get like which angle, which height should I go for? If Henrik Møllegård has all of a sudden gotten even slower feet, maybe, but they have so much width in their squad. So
I do think that there's going to be something of a challenge with replacing Mikkel Hansen, and I know he hasn't been playing a central role for Denmark for a couple of years, but when you talk about that whole left side, Putlik has not been at the same level as we've seen. He is completely burnt out, and I think he said it himself that he is exhausted from this last year of torrential handball, which he's played every single game. Like he's played to the final of the European League. He's played to the final of every championship, and he hasn't been at his absolute best. So for me, there's a little bit of a question mark around him. And otherwise, you look at that side, and Lauga has not been at the same level. Mads Mensen Larsen is not like playing dramatically well. And I think Thomas Arnoldson, it's still a little bit early for him. He's shown flashes, but I think he's also someone who's probably burnt out after a long calendar and young. And so there is some question marks around that left side for me.
There are, but you mentioned the group. It's Italy, Tunisia, and Algeria.
Yeah.
Then maybe come Switzerland, Poland. It all starts with the game against Germany. Probably it's the first game of the main round, but then they can rely on their squad. And then Putlik, I think for the long run, absolutely. I think you're into something there.
I think you're looking for problems. That's
maybe.
Which is what we're trying to do here, right?
But of course, with the style of play that Mikkel Hansen has had in the last couple of years, there's not that handball brain, if you say, with that passing skill. Of course, maybe it's just.
I genuinely
understand what you're saying.
I genuinely think that it's going to be a challenge to figure out, and I think obviously they're going to have a run through to the quarterfinal with no challenges. That's no issue, and it's a little bit annoying. Honestly, it's not that fun that Denmark are just going to sail through, but they're going to get hit by a team that's gone through the wars then, which can be a positive or a negative, but I think there's an opportunity for shock to happen at that quarterfinal stage. And if this is the first time that the likes of Thomas Aronsson, Putlik get a challenge in the tournament, there's just a potential. I'm dangerously close to having Denmark getting knocked out in the quarterfinal in my predictions. I'm dangerously close.
Okay.
Oof. They're coming to Oslo then, also maybe meeting Norway after spending a nice week at home, cruising through the main round. Yeah, maybe you're right.
There's something, and again, I'm probably reaching here, but we have seen it before. Denmark are not imperious. They do lose games at usually that stage. The quarterfinal stage is when they would lose. If they're in the semi-final, they're going to win it. That's for sure. And to me, it seems like it's slightly set up for that. On the contrary, I was looking at like Lauge and Mads Menzel Larsen talking about handball old. I was like, oh, these guys have been around forever. They're both 32. They're in the peak of their careers.
On that note, Albin, who do you think will pick up the medals at this championship? Who are your predictions for gold, silver, and bronze, and of course your MVP of this tournament?
I talked with Christian Andresson, former Sweden head coach, and Martin Flendersjö yesterday about this on our podcast, and I agree with them. I think Croatia is going to be dangerous this tournament.
Okay.
I think they'll face Hungary in the quarterfinals, then meeting France in the semifinals, and then at home in Zagreb. It's going to be hard for France with no goalkeepers. So I have Croatia against Denmark in the final. Hot take, maybe. And then Denmark will win. Denmark will win. Croatia second. And then Sweden will get their revenge on France in the bronze game.
Okay. Nice. And your MVP?
My MVP. I don't want to say Gitzel. Kuzmanovic in Croatia.
Okay.
I like it.
That's a bold call, and I like the
hipster choice.
Yeah, I like it. Croatia, as you said, there's a luck of the draw here, and there is something to say about a home tournament as well for these countries.
And they're gonna play for Dule too, so I think so. Domagoj Dubnjak. So and with Dager Sigurdsson as coach now, short time, but they're gonna hear if they don't play well.
Oh yes,
and they're gonna like it, So.
Lovely, Albin. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts on the championship.
Thanks, guys.
We've talked about a lot of teams now, but we haven't actually caught all of them. We've done World Championships before where we have dived in on the likes of Cape Verde. We haven't quite done that, but I think we've missed out on a few bigger teams. Any teams that you want to highlight? For me, the Netherlands are probably, they've been a darling of the handball world over the last couple of years. The bit of news came out about them. Thomas Feuchtmann just got another severe knee injury, and this has been the story of the Netherlands over the last couple of years, which is a little bit sad.
Oh yeah.
But they're, can they challenge this year? Can they do something? Bobby Shakin as well, a player who's going to miss the championship, which I think is probably a bigger loss since he is kind of their only right winger.
Yeah, and a real leader as well of the team for years now. It's interesting. I saw Rasmus Boysen put them as his surprise team on Twitter earlier today, which surprised me. I'm going to be honest, because they're a team I kind of had out of my radar for a little bit until I kind of put all the groups together and try to figure out who will get through to the quarterfinals, and actually see them having almost a 50-50 chance of getting into the quarterfinals. So I think that would be a major success for them if they do that. But for me, the big potential problem is the goalkeeper position. They have Bart Ravensbergen back, and he will probably be the starting goalkeeper. Matthias Rex Dorgello is the young goalkeeper.
Yeah, he's the Danish. He's the
Danish product, you might say. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I haven't seen him do much yet to make me believe in him in terms of a world championship. So I think that's one one area in particular that could be a bit of a worry for them. But, when you have Kai Smits, Niels Versteinen, Luke Steins, and Danny Bynes, but when you have those kind of players at your disposal, they will be able to hurt teams. And I'd see, like in the main round group where they're going to face the likes of France, Austria, Qatar, and Hungary already in the preliminary round, I think that Hungary game could decide which of those two go to the quarterfinal. Having spoken to Albin and talking about how ridiculously tough one half of the draw is, the Dutch will feel pretty good about the half of the draw that they're in.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned Hungary there, and I think they're a team who have... I would put them as a dark horse.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like a true dark horse, which Hungary likes to be. But we saw them break through on the women's side. They're obviously getting the same type of investment into the team on the men's side. And they're coming off a fantastic...
A year, basically. They've been really solid all year.
Great year. Solid year. Good performance in the Olympics, good performance in the Euros. Like, there's not much that has changed with the team. No. There's not an exciting talent that is going to take them to a new level, but they have a really solid squad, and with I think the likes of Pix Eged doing well, you have Banhidi and Bodo in good form, and they're just going to be really solid, and they're going to bring some pain to that side of the draw.
Yeah, it's really open. I think whichever of those two teams come through, they look like they'll have a quarterfinal against Croatia, which Croatia will be favourites in, but is totally open. So I'm really intrigued by this side of the draw, I have to say. And definitely the Hungarians a team to look out for. I mean, Croatia, I think we will go into more detail as well as we go in to the championship. But Albin speaking there about Domagoj Dovňák, it being his last tournament. They've got a really solid setup. The goalkeepers we spoke about in the bonus podcast as well, and Kuzmanovic being Albin's tip for MVP. If that's the case, then they're going to go deep. And we're going to reveal at the end of this podcast our tips, but I see them going very deep in this tournament as well.
The thought of Croatia, I think, is better than the reality of Croatia. The arguments are there. I like them. Yeah. I like all those arguments. I like the home. I like the Dubňák storyline. We saw Croatia kind of make a splash at the Olympics qualifier tournament, and then we're kind of their same old self in the Olympics themselves. Very variable, a little bit uncertain of which side's going to turn up. Luka Sindric is just constantly slightly injured. That seems to be the case going into this tournament as well. Looking at their kind of matches leading up, they did have a really good win against Slovenia, and you would think that the extra time that Dagger Sigurdsson has had with the squad, and Ivan Martinovic being in the squad and in great form, it's going to look good for them. We'll have to track that. And you say that it's the weaker side of the draw, but I think it's still good teams in Hungary, Croatia, and Egypt. They're still
and Olympic semi-finalists Slovenia, Iceland.
Slovenia, exactly. Iceland.
Egypt, yeah. I mean, but that is the thing, right? This second tier of teams is quite hefty, and it's good. I mean, there's going to be a lot of this. There's going to be some disappointed teams missing out on the quarterfinals, which is what you want to see with a main round featuring so many teams.
Any other teams you want to highlight before we go into our predictions, which I have not fully thought through?
Well, I want to mention Germany quickly because I watched back their second test match against Brazil this morning. And, well, really impressed by Brazil, first of all. And once again, another great first half performance. Germany just about pulled it out of the bag in the end, but by no means convincing. I don't want to read too much into test matches. I think Alfred Gislason is too smart a coach to give away everything in that sense. And he did rotate the team a lot in that game. But yeah, I think if anything, it made me feel better about Brazil. Germany, I don't know enough yet about them. Some stuff looked really good. At other times, the attack looked like the absolutely devastatingly poor attack from the Euro 1 year ago. So black and white, really.
I think it's again. I watched the first game against Brazil, and Germany started that game with Franz Zemper at right back, Lukas Witzke at centre back, and someone else at left back. So it wasn't. It was
Gergic.
I don't think he started. He was in the what I think is going to be the starting lineup with Gergic at left back. I think Gislason is trusting him, which is really exciting to see what that happens. It adds another kind of strong element, and with Sebastian Heyman out, I think that he's going to play, and he's going to have to contribute to the squad, which is exciting. I initially read into, is Jurek Knorr dropped? But it looks like he will be starting. But Luka Witzke is a very good backup, going to Flensburg now next season. So a really quality player. Yeah, it's a nice team, Germany. We did speak with Sasha on our Bundesliga podcast, if you listen to that, where we did preview the Germany team with him a little bit. And there is a sense of excitement around this squad.
Genuine anticipation, positive anticipation about a Germany team, which, I think we can all get behind after years of taking the piss out of them.
Exactly, and I think it does feel realistic, even with their fantastic performance in the Olympics. I think just the beast of Denmark exists, and Denmark and France, let's say, that people just don't fully believe that they can beat them, but I think they do have the talent and the just absolute bombastic takeover power of Rennersistchens when needed to cause some shocks.
I'm going to give you a bit more time to think about your predictions as we hear from Erwin Feuchtmann. For those of you who joined us on Patreon, already had a chance to listen to him on our podcast on Sunday, so if you've done that, you can skip ahead to the final few minutes, but for the rest of you, a chance to hear from a very charismatic man who was very generous with his time as he spoke to us during Chile's preparation for their 8th consecutive World Championship. Joining us from Bilbao, we have Erwin Feuchtmann from Chile, who are about to participate in your 8th consecutive World Championship, which is really incredible for this team. And you've been a part of it since the journey began in 2011. How are your levels of excitement and anticipation compared to 14 years ago?
Well, very high still. It's crazy, but still. I'm very, for example, yesterday we were talking with a teammate because we are preparing here the World Cup. And I told him, I love to play. I really like handball. Then with the time, it's harder to still have joy in training and warm up and all that. But overall, I love playing handball and I love representing Chile.
I have to say, for a lot of people, and including myself, watching Chile play at the World Championship is always a real pleasure because of the way, I think, the spirit of the team, and also you don't always know what to expect from this team as well. I think going back to the very beginning of your World Championship campaigns, the first game was in 2011, right, in Gothenburg against Sweden,
exactly.
In front of 10,000 fans.
10,000 fans.
What a debut for the team. What's still in your mind about that now, 14 years later?
That was crazy. I was 20 years old, or 19, and it was a big shock for us because we were not used to it at all, to all that. But if I'm not wrong, it was the best first tournament for an American national team in a World Cup. We played draw against Slovakia in the phase group. We were pretty decent against Sweden. In Sweden, we lost by 10 goals. I mean, look the results now with the newcomers of other continents when I went to the World Cups. It's not easy, not at all. So I think was for a first World Cup was not bad. We show what our potential. Then the story of Chile is much shorter than the story of France, Germany, Spain. I mean, our story is let's say, I don't know, 30 years of handball history in Chile. And look, Germany, maybe 100, I don't know, more.
Yeah.
So we know that this generation will not be a world champion, that's for sure, or even top 10 is almost impossible. But what this generation and me want to do is to create a better future for the next one. I mean, this is how the history of other national teams was created. That at the beginning they were not winning. At the beginning was giving baby steps that apparently doesn't show much. Because, for example, our first victory against an European team was Belarus in the World Cup in France. Apparently, it's not that much, but for us, it's a huge step. It's a huge step. It's a huge step to beat Austria by 9 goals in the World Cup in Denmark. So this next World Cup would be kind of the same, giving baby steps for future generations.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a quote from your teammate, Rodrigo Salinas, saying in 2011, we were just some young kids trying to improve handball in Chile. And I guess a lot of you young kids are still around now in 2025. How do you think the mentality of the team has changed since then? Because, as you said, you have taken steps at the World Championship. You've become a regular team now that we expect to see compete. How do you feel within the team things have developed?
It has developed. It has developed now. For example, that first team, there were like maybe 5 players playing out of Chile, and now almost everyone is playing in Europe. So it has changed. It has evolved. It has inspired new generations to try to become a handball player, because like Rodrigo says, I mean, at the beginning we were just like following our dreams, which were very like El Quijote. I mean, very kind of an illusion. I mean, Chilean players trying to be handball professional. I mean, that was not on the books. So for us, it's like building this building from the very structure, and now it's getting more complex, because the more we are in the World Cup, the more we need results, because we need results. We cannot go backwards, So we need results, and that give us pressure for the older ones. That give us responsibility. That give us that we need to give some values to this national team, because, like I said, we come from Chile. We are not 2 meters tall. We are not 100 kilos weight. So we need this something else. What you say? This mentality, this sacrifice mentality that can inspire. Because, like I said, we will not be world champions. But what I really like to do in the next World Cup is to the people say they have some balls, huh? even though we lose, even though we win, they don't let anyone to beat them easy.
Yeah.
And starting for that, I think to that mentality, we can create a future Chilean handball players.
Thinking back to the journey of this team so far, you have Rodrigo and his brother Esteban, you have yourself and your brothers as well, you have Marco Orneto, you have it feels like a real kind of a family spirit within the team, and now that things have developed over the years, is that still the case? Do you still feel like even though some siblings have stopped playing for the team, that the family values are still there?
Yeah, they're still there. They're still there, and I think it's important. It's crazy because why is that? Why is that I play? Because my brother showed me. Why is that the Esteban play? Because Rodrigo showed him. So it's crazy how because that people inspire us. It was people that was in our home. So I think that familiarity in a national team, it's always there. Look, France. Look, Karabatic, his father was also a player. Port, many players of the national team in France, they were connected with family members. So family members in the national team, I think, is important because it's a kind of how you can easily get inspired by someone next to you that has ironically the same mother, eats the same food as you, almost the same as you, and he arrived to the national team. So we don't have more cases like we used to because now I'm alone in the national team. Rodrigo is with Esteban, but besides that, I think we don't have more brothers. But who knows? I mean, Emil has a son.
Yeah.
He's 8 years old. Maybe I will have the chance to play with him. Who knows?
There you go. 8, 9, 10 years, sure.
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe he's an incredible talent, and he play when he's 16 or no? I don't know.
That would be nice. How about the attention back home in Chile? Is that something you notice now in the build up to our World Championship? Because obviously for you as a player and your teammates, this is a massive thing every 2 years or every year when you have a South American or Pan American championship to represent your country. But do you feel that there's more attention back home in the media and among people? Are people getting excited now in January for these events?
Yeah, everyone. I mean, every country get excited about the World Cup. But I think there is a lack of the federation to how to get to take advantage of this event. They don't do the work. I mean, they don't do the logistic to take the most possible advantage that you can make out of it. So yeah, there is some excitement, but still, I mean, for example, for a country as Chile that we don't play too many World Cups, would be lovely to have it in the open television, but it's not the case. So it's kind of sad because it's our 8th World Cup, and still, even though because in Chile also people is like every country, I would guess, it's very demanding, and people would like this to be in 8 finals or compared with football. It's that type of mentality, but still, I think the people would love to see a handball in Chile more than they do now. I mean, even you, that you are a foreign person, see something in us.
Yeah,
that thing that some European teams they don't have. So will be because in the 8th World Cups, only one was on TV in Chile, only one. So imagine the lack of go knocking doors, selling the product, all that, So it's kind of sad, actually.
Yeah, and I guess these days when you have also social media, that is a good opportunity, right, to potentially reach some people. And I think in a South American example, we have Gabi Moreski, the Brazilian goalkeeper on the women's side, who became like a social media superstar overnight, right?
Where was that?
During the Olympics, because Brazil won a big game, and all of a sudden she had hundreds of thousands of followers. So it's anything is possible, right? But I guess you need other people to be helping you with that, not just you on the court. There's only so much that you can do. I mean, speaking about your role as a player with the team, you have so much experience now. You're playing at a very high level. in Europe. You've been around the circuit playing club handball in Europe and had an amazing tournament 2 years ago on a personal level. How do you find your role with this team now with the younger players coming in and maybe not so many people are based in Chile anymore, so you're closer together geographically. But how do you find yourself as a kind of a leader of the team?
Well, I find that mature enough to be on that position. What I think I try to transmit the most is the work ethic. I think it's very important in life and in handball, and trying to be a professional handball, Chilean professional handball player. The work ethic has to be, our God. Eating well, hitting the gym, giving everything in the court. There are things that if you don't have that, it will be hard to be a professional player being from Chile. So this is what I want to transmit to the kids. And then the type of leadership I kind of do is much more than doing than speaking. Yeah. So that's my type of leadership. But there is some other people that they rather to talk more, but me mostly I rather to show much more than what I talk. So, like I said, I feel mature in this position. I feel fine. I feel maybe better than the last World Cup. We will see what I will do, how I will play.
To know.
Yeah, good to know. So yeah, very excited actually to play this World Cup.
Yeah, you mentioned the work ethic there, and I think that also looking at your career from the outside and seeing how your journey has been in Europe, because it's been it feels like a bit of a roller coaster ride as well, right? You've been everywhere from Westveen to Besiktas, Romania, and now the last 4 or 5 years, it seems a bit more settled in your couple of years in Lyon and now in Toulouse at a very high level. But it's I guess patience was also something, or some kind of faith you needed to have in yourself.
Yeah, exactly, patience, which like from fabric wise, I don't have. You can see my career, and it hasn't been an easy career for me at all. See my look. I change almost every day, almost every year to a new team. So I am a player who is mature. The maturity I reached when I was 32.
Yeah.
Real maturity. Before I will not say a bad player, but I will say an inconsistent player. And nobody wants to have an inconsistent player in their team. Nobody. I will not say that I was kicked out from every team, but I was not stable enough. And I figured out what a person have to be stable. And like you put it very well. It was not an easy way in my my way to do it. It was not easy. And one of the things I learned the most is the work ethic. The work ethic and patience and believing, really believing in yourself. When I was 26, I was playing third league in Germany, and sometimes I play left wing. Many times. So imagine that for me, if somebody would say I will reach Bundesliga or first league in France, it would be impossible for me to say that. But I did it, and that's one of the things I really want to transmit to the young guys here is that it sounds very like you can hear it in Rocky movies or in every movie you can see now, that you have to believe in yourself, really have faith that you can make it. And not only faith in the results, because people get in love of the results, in what people will say to you when you reach that, in how you will feel when you will reach it, then I will be happy. And no, you have to be in love of the process. That's the secret. Be in love. Be in love actually of the pain, because everyone will experiment pain. Even the guy who won the Champions League, even the guy we will win now the World Cup. He will have the problems. Maybe I don't know which type of problem a person in that position will have, but they will have issues to deal with. And as the last in the, we will also have to deal with. So my point is that everyone needs to deal with pain in life. My thing, the difference is that you have to choose which pain you want to deal with. And I'm very happy to choose which pain or which suffering or which process we want to choose. And like I said, it's very important to achieve stuff and get better, because at the end of the day, it's to get better every day. If you are focused on that, the results will come. It's a big mistake to focus on the results, because that creates frustration, because you're living in the future. And what actually gives you stability, peace, and happiness is to work every day your ass off, and that's it. And then what God brings, that's on them. It's not on you. So that I learned it after how many mistakes. I cannot describe it. When I was 32, I tried to really internalize that message.
That's a great message. I think for anyone in handball or in life, but particularly for a team like yours. And when you look at the opponents you have coming up as well, I think a very good way to be approaching the group as well. You're in a group with Spain, who I think you know very well at this point, Sweden as well, and Japan, who are all three teams who were playing in the Olympics only a few months ago. Yeah, I guess you kind of answered the question already about how you're going to be approaching those games.
Yeah, look, our before the World Cup, our game would be Japan. But then we saw what they do in the World Olympics, and we were, fuck, that would be hard. But hey, it's one game. Last World Cup we lose by 2 goals against Spain.
Yeah.
I will not say. Beat them would be like maybe one of the most incredible results in the handball history. But we will play every game, and especially against Japan. I think that's our game. That's the game that we have a chance. They are favorite for sure, but we have our chances, and that's our goal, to beat them and to pass to main round.
Looking back at your history with the team in the World Championship, are there any particular moments that stand out for you that are highlights? Personally?
Well, the first win against a European team against Belarus in France was amazing. It was the first game in the tournament, and Belarus is at that time was a very strong and solid team with amazing players. So that changed something, I think, in the history in Chile. That's a very iconic game. And I will choose that. Then also the winning against Austria in Denmark was also a crazy winning, and like Austria with amazing players. So these two victories, I think they were like very important for us. And
nice. You said you're not going to be winning the World Championship. Who do you think will win the World Championship?
That's a good question, but I see Denmark very strong, very solid. They have young players, they have old players. The coach, I find tactically one of the best coaches in the world. It's incredible how he changed the defense, how he used the older one in very specific moments. Then he also bring the young ones taking a lot of responsibilities. So I think Denmark it's a big favorite.
Yeah, I think in everyone's eyes, it's their tournament to lose, right? But anyway, it was Erwin. It was a real pleasure to have you on talking to us. Great to know that you're feeling in better in a better shape than 2 years ago, so we can expect even more. But very best of luck to you and the rest of the team. Everyone stay healthy, and we look forward to seeing you in action in a few days.
Thank you, Chris, and thanks for the interview.
Alex, the time is now. We must make our predictions. We've heard from our experts. We've even heard from Erwin Feuchtmann, who predicted, like everyone so far, that Denmark would win gold. Where do you sit?
As I said, I'm coming dangerously close to knocking Denmark out in the quarterfinal. But I'm not a brave man. I am not that brave. And I think I just don't want Denmark to win another one. That's why I'm just looking for reasons to not pick them to win it.
Go for it then. You'll be the only one. It'll be great.
See, the thing is, I kind of have a stronger feeling about France not making the semi-final than Denmark not winning it. And Egypt and Croatia landing in the other semi-final. I kind of have a stronger feeling of that because, you know what?
Oh no!
I'm not going Egypt to win it.
Come on, Alex! Come on, Alex! He said it here. Goodbye. No, I just fear now that, based on what you're saying, that we're going to end up with the exact same prediction.
Oh.
And I thought I was being a little bit out of the box, but maybe not.
I'm going to go Denmark, Egypt, Norway.
Okay. And MVP?
Emil Nielsen.
Okay.
Because it's his first full tournament as the main guy, absolutely the main guy. And I think he's actually the reason why I think Denmark are going to win it. Without Emil Nielsen, I would have a stronger feeling of that quarterfinal knockout. But with him there, I just can't do it.
Yeah, and breaking Sander Sorgensen's heart. So I reckon Norway are going to win their main round group and avoid Denmark in the quarterfinal, and finish third. Croatia to finish in second place, Denmark to win it, and Ivan Martinovic to be the MVP.
Wow, this is a big Croatia podcast here.
I felt it. It's all there for them, and because I'm going to be there for the final, for the quarterfinal, semi-final, I was there when they bottled a home European Championship, and Sweden went and won it. So I want to see some Croatia success in Croatia. Yeah, they're going to do it. They've got two really good goalkeepers. They've got solid players in pretty much every position. And Duvniak, who is not only handball old, but old at 36, but he can do it. So, well, sure.
All of this and Germany not making either of our semi-finals is tough.
But hey, predictions,
even Martinovic as an MVP. That's a bold claim.
Getting all of his frustration of his terrible career move out on the rest of the handball world during this championship, earning himself a new contract somewhere else. We will also on our social media post predictions from a bunch of experts we've asked as well, alongside those we asked on the podcast. You can look forward to that, and we'll be in on Patreon in a couple of days with a bonus episode. But until then, everyone, enjoy the opening round of games, and we'll catch you soon. Goodbye.